Episode 4. The Warehouse. Like almost every other dirty disgusting location in the dirty disgusting town of Lanesville, the abandoned warehouse sat on the shore of the dirty disgusting Lanesville River. The surrounding grass was almost as tall as Gia. She made her way along a little path she'd been wearing since she began her workout regimen a few weeks ago. She would have joined a gym by now, but there weren't any within walking distance and Lanesville's mass transit system was a joke. Besides, every dude in there would want to compete with her, lose very badly, take it personally, and feel the need to redeem himself by trying to beat her some other way. He would lose that way also and have to find some other way to beat her, and so on. It would all get ugly very quickly, and who knew how it would end? If the terrible place had taught her anything, it taught her that men cannot lose gracefully. The gutted brick building loomed like a haunted castle before her. It was ancient. A monument to the boom days of Lanesville so long ago, way before it became Lamesville. She had really grown quite fond of the derelict's crumbling beauty, and how remote it seemed even though it was still relatively close to civilization. She was certain drug dealers oft deadbeat clientele here. That cops brought people of interest here to interrogate, off the books. It just had that kind of vibe. She entered the warehouse and walked to an out-of-the-way storage area, then set her backpack on the concrete floor. To one side of her was a stack of inch-thick 4-foot by 8-foot planks. To the other side a pile of inch-thick busted wood, no piece any bigger than a square foot. When Gia first arrived a few weeks ago there were a few more piles of warped 4x8s and no pile of busted-up wood. Gia took some combat tape from her backpack and applied one strip around her lower knuckles, making it a few layers deep. She began her workout routine. She pulled the first 4x8 off the stack closest to her. She placed the 4x8 against the wall vertically, using her left foot as a stop to keep the 4x8 from sliding. She sent a lightning-fast punch into the 4x8 with her right hand. Crack. All it took was one hit to split it down the middle. Now she had two 2x8s which she stacked next to the pile of busted wood. She grabbed the next 4x8 repeating the process only switching sides. Using her right foot as a stop and her left hand to punch. Crack. Once again it only took one hit to split the plank. She added to her pile of 2x8s. About 15 minutes later she had a nice tall stack of 2x8s. She broke these in half using the same method, only she changed the direction of her punch to achieve a horizontal split, resulting in two 2-foot by 4-foot pieces. These she began to pile up behind her as she repeated this exercise. When she was done with the 2x8s, she switched things up. She picked up the first 2-foot by 4-foot piece of inch-thick wood, holding it from its far side, palms down. The way you'd hold a roller coaster's protective bar. She then bent the wood, arms hardening, until, crack, she had a 2-foot by 2-foot. She began stacking those up in front of her. Once she had nothing but the 2x2s, she set up two large cinder blocks side by side about 1.5 feet apart. She started setting the 2x2s atop the cinder blocks and began breaking those with her fists, alternating between hands, sometimes stacking 2 or 3 pieces of wood at a time. At this point she was creating shards and splinters of shattered wood, which she added to the pile that was already there. It was a workout that lasted her about an hour and a half. Her bulging vascular arms felt grateful, at least for the moment. The fortified bones and cartilage in her hands and wrists also thanked her. And in addition to all those boards, she'd also broken a sweat. Hallelujah! As she removed the combat tape, she gazed at the dwindling stack of 4x8 planks. She figured she would start on concrete next. There were stacks of 2-foot by 2-foot tiles next to the planks. Who needed the gym? For now her bladder was calling out. She knew she should have gone to the bathroom back at the house. She'd just have to go in the high grass. Gia grabbed her backpack and went to the rear of the warehouse. She set the backpack down on the rear ledge and waded into the field of grass about 50 feet, making sure nobody could see her. Gia was shy like that. Pulling her shorts and underwear down she squatted, humming to herself accompanied by the sound of piss hitting dirt. Little did Gia know while she was relieving herself, the warehouse was receiving 3 visitors. Technically, 2 live visitors and 1 dead one. The live visitors, a female cop and a male security guard, dragged in the dead visitor, who was rolled up in a sheet of plastic. Coming in through the gaping front entrance, they found a clear spot on the floor. They began to unroll the piece of plastic. Outside, Gia came within about 20 feet of the warehouse and froze. She heard voices and commotion coming from inside. Shit, she thought. This was supposed to be her own special place. She would try to figure out how to leave without getting attention. Gia constantly struggled in social interactions. She didn't know why people couldn't just share moments of silence. Why did there always have to be conversation? She quietly approached the warehouse, staying away from the back opening where her backpack sat on the rear ledge. Gia tiptoed up to a small slot between 2 bricks and peered in. She had a pretty good view of what was going on in there. A dude rent-a-cop with short blonde hair and lady real cop, also with short blonde hair, unrolled a large sheet of plastic containing a smartly dressed businesswoman. She was in her 30s, tanned, with silken black hair. She had long thin legs that ended in sensible heels. Despite the tan, there was a pallor to the businesswoman's skin. And there was something unnatural about her position too. Then Gia figured it out. The woman's body was on its stomach, but her head was facing up. Her face bore a blasé expression. When her neck was torqued 180 degrees, she had no idea it was coming. Welp. There was a corpse in the mix now. That really complicated an already daunting encounter Gia would have to have with these protectors of the peace. "This is just what the doctor ordered, sis," the rent-a-cop said out of nowhere. "You wouldn't believe the day I had. To cap it off, some guy came in vomiting shit. You ever hear of that? Excrement coming out from the wrong end like that? It was projectile too." "You mean diarrhea of the mouth," the cop said. "I've been dealing with that ever since Mama borned you." "Ha ha," the rent-a-cop retorted sarcastically. "So what's the plan with this one, bro?" the cop asked. "She's getting the drum, sis," rent-a-cop answered, gesturing to a collection of large, empty drums in one of the warehouse's far corners. Gia was a little amused. Bro and sis even had the same build. Husky. Thick necks. Narrow shoulders. Childbearing hips. Moved in the same lumbering fashion. They might even be twins, the female being the older one, of course. The rent-a-cop and the cop slowly rolled the businesswoman's corpse over onto its back. Then the rent-a-cop grabbed the businesswoman's head, which had wound up face down. Rent-a-cop swiveled it so it faced up again, like the rest of her. The neck had a screw-thread wrinkle in it now. Rent-a-cop may have turned the head to face the right way, but it was a half-turn too far. "The lane drum treatment, as per usual," the cop laughed. "That's what happens when you try to make trouble for the family." She gave the businesswoman's deadpan face a friendly slap. The cop then crouched at the businesswoman's legs. The rent-a-cop stayed at the head. The cop reached under the businesswoman's skirt and pulled her panties part way down. "Laundry day," the cop muttered. "Got the granny panties on." The cop then took a little Swiss Army knife from her belt, which she used to cut the panties off. The rent-a-cop pulled a hidden pistol from his pant leg. Grabbing it by the barrel, he used the butt of it to hit the dead businesswoman in the mouth. "Hey," the cop said, "what are you doing? Suppose that thing goes off. Do you got the safety on?" "Course I got the safety on," the rent-a-cop said, looking at the gun. He paused and clicked the safety on. "Well, now I do," he continued. "You wonder why you never got a job where they let you carry a gun," the cop said. "Fuck them all," the rent-a-cop said, using the gun to bash the dead woman's front teeth out. He fished the loose teeth out with his fingers, tossing them on the plastic beside her head. He opened her mouth, pushing the jaw wide. He let go of the jaw, and it held open. "Thought you could run your big mouth, hey?" the rent-a-cop said to the dead face. "Well, fuck your big mouth and don't mind if I do." "What about the rest of her teeth, bro?" the cop said, beginning to spread the corpse's legs. "Yeah," the rent-a-cop said. "I stopped taking the side ones out. They can add to the stimulation if I move around just right." "Well, the head is your business," the cop said. "And this here crotch is all mine." The cop pushed the dead woman's legs apart as far as they could go and got into a kneeling position between them, getting close to the private area. The labia were clean-shaven with a little tuft of brown hair above the clitoris. The cop got close to the lips and spread them slightly with her fingers. Oh my, this gash is loaded with something gummy. Smegmatic. With that, the cop cocked her head sideways so her mouth and the businesswoman's labia were parallel. Then, she went in, sinking her teeth into the outer vaginal area. She shook her head several times, finally tearing away a nice big chunk of labia and the flesh underneath. Suddenly the cop's mouth was smeared with what looked like raspberry preserves. Meanwhile the rent-a-cop pulled off his pants, revealing his erect penis. Oddly, he folded his pants before setting them aside. Then he hovered over the dead woman's head. Facing away from the cop, he got into a push-up position. Then he began to lower his groin, guiding his erection into the corpse's toothless orifice. Oh yeah, that's some good throat right there. Oh, bro. No, the female cop said, with a mouth full of bloody vagina. I don't want to stare at your bare ass while I eat. Your butthole is ruining the ambience. So don't look at it, the rent-a-cop barked back. Give me like 2 minutes, I'm gonna change positions anyway. I like starting out poking the roof first. Gia was getting impatient watching this, but she knew if she went for her backpack they were going to see her. She considered creating a distraction. Like throwing a rock over them so it would make a noise on the other side. Hey, how's that putty, sis? The rent-a-cop asked, ramming his boner into the businesswoman's mouth. Like a ham and cheese sandwich, bro, the cop said, the lower half of her face caked in crimson, dark blood drooling from her meat-filled mouth, and that touch of urine that adds a zing of vinegar. Chef's kiss. As the cop chewed with gusto, Gia could now see the corpse's half-eaten undercarriage. Her pelvic bone stuck out of the vaginal gore, birth canal yawning, and something else, maybe the bladder, drooping from the gaping wound. Then the cop went in for more, burrowing her face deeper into the gash she'd torn open. Her face completely smeared with blood and bits of flesh, she pulled out a tangled mess of something. It looked just like the "Got the uterus, bro," the cop said with a mouthful. And she ain't pregnant. That would have been a treat. I thought you liked chowing on them dead babies after they got born, rent-a-cop said. But those embryos are real tender morsels, the cop gushed. Yum yum yum. The rent-a-cop started changing his position. He swiveled himself by crab walking 180 degrees, and for a moment his head faced completely away from Gia. This was Gia's chance. The cop's head was almost completely inside the businesswoman's ripped open pelvis, and the cop was facing the warehouse's entrance, opposite Gia. She was about to move when the cop suddenly pulled her head up facing the warehouse's exit and spit something out. Yuck! Gia froze. The cop was facing the warehouse's exit now. What's the matter, sis? The rent-a-cop said. I almost swallowed a pube, she said, frustrated. I hate it when people get half-assed about. The cop glanced at the exit, trailing off, shaving. The cop was full-on staring at the exit now. Gia did not move. Hey, bro. I thought you said nobody ever comes here. Oh no. Gia's heart sank. Yeah, nobody does, the rent-a-cop answered. Then who the fuck belongs to that backpack sitting over there? Cop asked. Rent-a-cop looked. Oh shit. Shit. Then he hollered. Who's there? Fast as a whip, Gia reached out, snatched the backpack and bolted away before they could see the rest of her. Hey! The cop shouted after her. Gia ran and put the backpack on at the same time, heading right into the tall grass. She crouched down as she ran. She also knew to move side to side like a snake. She had no idea how she knew that. It seemed instinctual, but she knew it must have been taught at some point before the amnesia. Maybe even at the terrible place where she woke up. Hey you! Freeze! She heard the rent-a-cop yell from behind her now. She heard the cop yell, "Stop or we will." Then came the gunshots, presumably from bro who couldn't wait for sis to finish her warning. Still bent over as she ran, Gia made sure her backpack was hiked up and she bowed her head. She heard a distinct sound. metal cutting through air at 1,500 feet per second. The bullet had passed by, inches from her head. And suddenly Gia was running across a football field. She was in the middle of a pack of kids her age, all running for their lives. Gunshots came from behind her. Screams from all around her. One of the kids ahead of her jerked backward as his head exploded into a spray of brains, blood, and skull shrapnel. He fell, and Gia ran past his body, not looking back. More screams. Another bullet winged past Gia's head, and she was back in the tall grass outside the warehouse. She was almost at the woods that led to her neighborhood. Somehow she knew if she could make it that far, she'd be hidden enough so that she'd be safe. The gunshots behind her became more distant and then non-existent. A few minutes later Gia was cutting through backyards to get back to her house. She needed to lay low for the immediate future. When she got home she studied her backpack. There was a bullet hole right in the middle of it. She pulled the flattened bullet from the bullet hole. Her backpack was her souvenir from the terrible place. She was told it was bulletproof. Today she found out it really was.